Okay, welcome. This is Sunday, January 8th, 2017. The Central Florida Computer Society Windows Special Interest Group, the WinSIG, is started. Finally, we're starting a little late today, and we apologize. And so we're going to get right started right away. I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and we're glad you're here. And let's get right to our meeting notes. I need to mute for a second to clear my throat. Hopefully the mute worked on the microphone. If it didn't, I apologize. Okay, let's get started. How not to drive your adult kids nuts on Facebook is the first item that I thought I'd start with today. And we'll go to that website. And I don't know if you are aware of it, but I'm using Firefox. Firefox and Edge both have something where you can go into a reader view, and I'm going to do that. And it kind of cuts out all the junk that's on the web page, and so you only see what's on the web page. So that's what I'm doing right here. And so how not to drive your kids nuts. These days, almost everyone is posting, sharing, and liking on Facebook. And those of us who are adults, and a lot of you in the audience have adult kids, your grandmothers and grandfathers, and so you use it, your family uses it, you keep in touch with them. However, they have, somebody's written an article of some things to caution you what to do and not to do with your kids, your grown-up adult kids, and your grandkids. Don't use the comments area to criticize what they post. Do you think your daughter should not wear a bulky sweater like the one she's wearing in the photo? Resist the temptation to type. They don't want you to do that. They don't want you criticizing them in Facebook. And that goes into the next one. Don't criticize them about their posts either, on the phone or even in person. No one wants to hear that photo on Facebook was so unflattering. Just ignore it. Don't bring it up. And then also, number 3 is don't begin a sentence with, did you see on Facebook that? If they saw it, they saw it. They don't want to talk about it. They want to talk about other things. So that's why you post it on Facebook, so you don't have to talk about it. So don't keep talking about the jokes that you post or something else. Just ignore using the statement, did you see on Facebook? Number 4, don't post commentary, political statements, or memes on your child's Facebook pages, or tag them on those kind of posts. They don't want to be associated with what your views are, and a lot of times they don't even want to know what your views are, and they may, especially if they're different than theirs. So, so please be careful doing that. Also, number 5 is do not have a public conversation on Facebook that you would not like to have in front of 100 or more people in person. So don't try to write a conversation with your kids online on Facebook. You just don't put personal stuff in there. Do post fun and appropriate comments about the photos your kids post. Go ahead and tag your adult children in posts of their adorable childhood photos that you posted to your timeline. As long as they don't object, they ask you not to do it, don't. And if you feel worried or uncomfortable about something your child has posted, get in touch with them offline to discuss it. A phone call is fine, and in person is great. Not a good idea to do it. Don't air your dirty laundry in public. And then have fun and enjoy the new universe, which you can connect with your friends, share aspects of your life, and interact with your kids and grandkids on a daily basis. Post things about what you're doing. They'll see it. They may not comment. They may not like it. When I say like it, mark it as liked, but that doesn't mean they didn't see it. They shouldn't have to mark everything that you do with a like to prove to you that they saw it. So those are some things to be careful of. The next item that I'd like to talk about is checking your bandwidth, no matter where you are. And there's a couple of websites that I want you to show you. One of them is a quick bandwidth check that I just came across recently. It's called fast.com. All you have to do is go to it, And bingo, right away, it starts working. You can see I have very fast bandwidth here, and that's it. I got 220 megabits per second on this call, even while this call is going. Let's go to, and that's fast.com. And then let's go to this one, which is speedtest.net. What you have to be careful of with Speedtest is the fact that they got a lot of advertisements on here and a lot of buttons. You only want to choose the one that says begin test. There's also this is from a company called Ookla, O-O-K-L-A. It's up here in the corner. And if you go to, if you have an iOS machine, there is an app that you can and you search for it under Ookla, and it'll be the speed test, because this is using Flash, and your iOS does not work with Flash, so they have an app that does the same thing. Now, when you begin the test, they have set up a location that they're going to test to. It can only go as fast as that location can handle. So sometimes what I do, if it doesn't seem to be as long as it was, for instance, at fast.com, I will change it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to check to see, and it's only going from Bradenton to Tampa. Let's see what the test shows us. First it pings, and then does a download. This one also does an upload speed. And since I'm on Spectrum, which is the old Bright House, upload is never as fast as download, but let's go ahead and see what we get. It pings and then does the upload. You'll see it's not nearly as fast as we just saw under fast.com. Let's see what the upload is. Upload's still not too bad. It's getting up there. It usually hovers around 20, 21. But the download speed, let's go ahead, and what we're going to do now is we're going to go to a new server. Come on. And I didn't want to do that. I want to go to a new server. How do we do that? And it's going to do it again first. Okay, now we're getting it. We went to a different server, and you can see that it's similar to what the other one was. I'm getting 200 and, well, let's see what it stops at. 239.59 download, and the upload will stay right about 20. So the upload doesn't change. That's about as fast as I'm going to get. It's a 20, 22 area. But the download, you can see 239 is not bad. I believe I pay for what used to be the 50 rate, but this one went to a different cable company in Tampa. So you're only going to go as fast as the other end can go, but in this case, the other end can go pretty fast. So that's a way to test your bandwidth, either one of those. By the way, these are on my website, so these links are live that I'm using. So you can go to Huey.net, then go to WinSig. Let's move it up here a little bit. Go to WinSig, go to the meeting notes for 2017, not 7. And then go to today's date. And you'll see them right there. Okay, let's switch up a little bit and talk about the Windows recovery disk. I've been working with some of my neighbors that have needed some help, and one of the problems that a few of them had was they needed to use the recovery disk, which they never made. And that's something that you want to do. So let's take a look at what the recovery disk is, some tips about it, and then about creating it. Again, let's go ahead and look at the reader view to get rid of all the junk. I'll make it a little bit bigger here. And using Windows 10 battery saver, okay, that's something else. Somebody wanted to know if he should ever update his Windows recovery disk, and I checked with Microsoft to get the full story, and here's what he found out. even if your PC can't start, you can use a recovery drive to reset it or troubleshoot problems. If you back up the system files to this drive, you'll also be able to use it to reinstall Windows. So you can do either. But first of all, let's be clear about the recovery disk is. It's not an image of your entire operating system installation or a full system backup. According to Microsoft, it's a user-created recovery disk for Windows 10, which includes a bootable recovery environment along with the Windows Components Store, installed drivers, backup of pre-installed Windows apps, provisioning packages containing pre-installed customizations, and a push-button reset configuration, XML, and scripts. All this disk will allow you to do is fix a broken installation of Windows, either by repairing boot files or performing a reset of the operating system itself, should it be unbootable. It does not include any of your data files, so you should always have a backup. This is also another situation where keeping your data files in a separate partition from the operating system might also come in handy. If you want a full system backup, you'll need a program. Some of you are using Acronis, others are using Macrium Reflect, and there's others out there as well. But you definitely answer the question posed in the headline is you don't need to update a recovery disk once it's created. And let's take a look. I've got another article about this because there's a few other things about creating the recovery drive. This one is an article. If you have trouble creating it, again, let's go ahead and make that bigger as well. Make sure you take the time to make a recovery drive. You can make it either as a USB bootable, take a stick, a USB stick, or you can do it with a CD or, I'm sorry, a DVD. A CD will not be big enough. However, the best thing to do is use a USB, but you need a big one. Microsoft says usually around 8 gigabytes should be fine, but everything I'm reading is you better have a 16 gig. So what I did for my 3 computers, I bought 3 16 gig USB drives, got a pretty good price on them. They were, I believe they're Kingston or one of the major brands. Got them all alike, and I just labeled them and did one for each of my 3 computers. And they vary from filling up the drive from, I think the smallest one is about 6 gigabyte, and the largest one's about 8 gigabyte of information on that drive. So you really want to get a 16 gig USB. Worth having. You put it somewhere where you'll know it's going to be. You don't use it for anything else. And so you create a Windows 10 recovery drive. As I say, I did it for each of my computers. If you're running Windows 10, you need to create a recovery drive, a bootable flash drive that will allow you to restore your system from a restore point, an image backup, or through a complete reinstall. There's no single solution to the problem. A fix that works for one person won't necessarily work for another. But first, a quick review on creating a recovery drive. Plug in the empty flash drive with a capacity that says 4 gigabyte or more. Again, use a 16 gig.
Question, Huey?
Yeah.
That paragraph that says you can do any of those 3 things, if you have a Macrium Reflect image backup, why do you need this latest thing?
If it won't boot, you got to have something bootable to get to that Macrium refresh.
No.
Macrium has its own bootable recovery drive.
CD.
Okay, but you could still do it this way as well.
Yes, that would be it.
You could start it with this and then run your backup in case it doesn't work or you have a problem with it. So yes, you're correct. You may not need it for that, but still not a bad idea to have it as a further insurance.
Well, drivers, for example, that would be handier than doing a whole complete replacement. So it's worth looking into.
Yes. And it's something that Microsoft says you're supposed to do is create a recovery drive, and nobody does it. I have now done it for all 3 of my computers.
And that's an important point. You have to have a unique drive for each computer. You cannot have one recovery disk to use for multiple computers.
That's correct. Thank you. So, so if you want to back up system files necessary, so you want to also back up your data files. I'm using a cloud called, I'm trying to think which drive it is. I believe it's iDrive. There was a super deal for like about $8 or $10 for the year, and they even sent me a hard drive. I put all the files, because I had hundreds of gigabytes, put it on the drive, sent it to them, then they loaded it on the cloud for me, so I didn't have to spend months uploading them all. And now every night it goes out and says, okay, is there any new files, any updated files? And it backs them up to from the folders that I designate. There's other cloud answers to doing that. You want to have some place besides your hard drive or in your house where your data files are backed up. Should you have a house fire, should somebody break in and steal all of your equipment, if your backup is where all your equipment is held, it's going to go too. So you want to make sure that you have some kind of an off-premise recovery for your files. Just this past weekend, actually, Friday, in the mail Friday, I received something called a Lima, L-I-M-A, and I'll be talking more about that somehow, either through Facebook or through the tech group or just on my website. But it's a mechanism for creating a cloud drive. I went out and I bought a 4 terabyte drive. That is held here. But using it, I can not only back up from my hard drive, I can access any of the files from my iPad or my iPhone remotely, as well as download items. So if I'm not online, they will be on my iPhone or my iPad. But more about that later. But that's called Lima, L-I-M-A. If you want to find out more about it, go to meetlima.com. Okay, so there's this article also goes out. If you're having some problems creating your recovery drive, this kind of explains what to do and some workarounds to make it so it happens. So you might want to take a look at that article. Let's go to the next item here. Windows 10 annoyances and solutions. Okay, this is probably we probably won't even get through all of this. There's a lot to this. This is a great article. Let me go ahead and again get it into the right view and make it larger. So if you think just back about 10 years ago, we lived in an era when we simply couldn't rely on our PCs to work consistently for long periods of time. Snarl-ups and crashes would come with frustrating regularity. That's gotten a lot better. I very seldom have a crash. Occasionally one program will, and I'll restart or reboot. But for the most part, I don't have crashes, where it was a very regular thing just a few years ago. Since then, the reliability of Windows has improved quite a bit. Yet, despite our PC's newfound reliability, problems do occur. And so this is several things that you can do to kind of figure out what's going on. One we just mentioned, the recovery drive. So they're saying begin with prevention. It's better to have than a cure, and that is make sure that you look for recovery in the control panel to create it. In Windows 8.1 and 10, you can create a USB flash recovery drive, with Windows 10 also allowing you to include a full backup copy of the OS should something go horribly wrong. But let's look at some other things. Now, the system file checker is the next item. You can get to it by just coming down to your command, go to a command prompt. Make sure you do so in an admin window, and then you type in SFC /scan now, and it'll scan. I did it on this computer last night. It took 10-15 minutes, and it had no errors. So to show you something with this, it would be time consuming to find no problems. But so if you have an up-to-date installation DVD, you can't use a USB flash drive for this. You can reinstall the files, you can download. So what you want to do is, it's a system file checker to make sure all of the system files are there. This is one I wasn't familiar with, and it's called the reliability history. And just from the start menu, do a search for it. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to come down here to Ask Me Anything and just type in and that's all I have to do is type that much of it. It's right here, view reliability history. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. It's reading it, generating a report. While it's doing that, let's come back here and see what it says. This is what it's going to look like. I guess that's all it does. The article tells us is what it's going to look like. So let's see. It's just, there we go, and it's up and running. I can't make it any bigger. I'm sorry. I can full screen it, see if that makes it any bigger. So at least you're not being confused by other things on the screen. Notice this is a view by days and weeks. So there's some dates and there's some items here. Application failures, it says over here, Windows failures, miscellaneous failures, warnings, and information. So under application failures, let's go to the day I had two. Let's see, 5th, that would have been the 6th. I had an application failure and a Windows failure. Let's take a look. And then it shows what it is. It was a hardware failure. Check for a solution. So we can click there. No new solutions found. And then it was in the Windows Explorer stopped working. And then check for a solution. So let's look at another day here. Well, there were several, and there was the Windows Shell Experience Host. I have no idea what that is. But again, it talked about when it stopped and what happened. And then also information. I don't use OneNote, and there was an update on it. So that's marked there. Let's go down to where it says information and click on it. Oh, that's what that is, the informational event. Let's find another one here. Feedback hub, successful Windows update. So this tells you different things that went on in your system and what days. WPD file system volume driver, successful driver installation. I may have installed some new software or hardware. I'm not sure what that was. Driver management concluded the process to install driver, wpdfs.inf, and so on. For a certain device with the following status, and so everything was all right. So let's come back here and go back. So that is the reliability and problem history. Nice report for your computer to go back and take a look at, see what's going on when you have some issues, or just to see what issues you have. The event viewer. If you need more information about a problem, search the event viewer. This will list all errors, warnings, critical events, more information you'll ever need. And if you're inquisitive, not a good place to go because it's going to give you so much information. You're going to spend too much time trying to figure stuff out that you don't even need to know about. But let's see how to get to event viewer. Let's do the same thing. Come down here to Ask Me Anything. Type in event. And there it is right there. The desktop app. We click it. And there it is on my computer. There's Event Viewer Local. It gives me some information here and the times and things that were modified. A log summary of things going on. What's enabled. Under Custom Views, you got Administrative Events. In Device Manager, And there's a summary of administrative events up here. Under Windows logs, you got application, security, setup system, and forwarded events. So let's go to application logs. And bingo, there's a whole bunch. There's nothing red there, which is good. But finding something red may happen occasionally. Let's take a look in setup. See if I had any issues. No setup issues. Let's try system. See if I find, yeah, there is an error. So I had some kind of an error today at 1:45 p.m. Probably nothing distributed COM. I'd have to do a search what that is. But it does give me some information here. Nothing that makes any sense to me, so nothing I'm going to worry about. And there's some event log online help, so you can go out and search. Again, another item that if you're having issues, you might go in and take a look at to see what problems you're having, if you have some knowledge about them. If not, there might be some things to do some screen captures and give to whoever is going to repair your computer. Your task manager, performance monitor, and resource monitor are things you're probably familiar with, but to get to the task manager in Windows 10, you just come down to the taskbar, right mouse click, and it's right there. Go ahead and click it. Your task manager now in Windows 10 has a lot more than the task manager of old and older versions. You have your performance, you've got your startup list here. Everything that's in startup is listed here, what's enabled and not enabled in your startup. So you can see what's there and then what their impact, whether it be high, medium, low, or not measured. If it's not enabled, if it's disabled, there'll be none. But you can go in and see what's scheduled to start up when you start your computer. You can go into users, details of things in your system, on your tasks, and services. So you're more information you really need. But if you are having some issues, occasionally if something hangs, I go into Task Manager, find what it is that's hanging, I click on it, and then click on End Task, and that usually will clear it if there's no other way in which I can clear it.
Huey,
Yes.
one thing I've discovered in Task Manager, when you load applications, there are often updates and needs to reload and so forth. And in using Task Manager, I discovered an application that loaded itself twice. And that was causing a problem. So that I would never have discovered that if I hadn't used Task Manager and the Startup Manager.
Yeah, and if a program doesn't close properly and you click it to open it again, not knowing it didn't close properly, you may see 2 or 3 instances of it. And that's a good, go ahead and close them all down and then start. Firefox occasionally does that. It doesn't close down completely or properly. And I'll see 1 or 2 instances extra of Firefox, and I close them out and then close out the one and then come in fresh, and it works. And also, you'll notice right now it's sorted. It's sorted, I believe, by CPU, but you can sort by just clicking on name. So if you want to see what's changing here, you can see them change without them running all over the place. If you're doing it by CPU speed, they're going to change the order, and if you do it a second time, it'll reverse the order. But if you do it that way, they're changing the order depending upon what the CPU speed is. So right now, notice Zoom is at the top, but some of these others are changing, and so it's changing them in the order. Same with how much memory they're using, disk they're using, and network, and so on. So sometimes you want to change which one you're sorting by. And if you can't find it, do it alphabetically by clicking on name and then drop down to the ones that are there.
Huey,
Yes.
does that Task Manager have a network graph like Windows 7 does? If not, can you add one?
It hasn't.
Can you repeat the question? Somebody's near the microphone, so it gets on the recording, and then what the answer was? I didn't hear it either.
He asked if the task manager has a network category, and it does.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you for answering it too.
Julie, I have a question.
Sure.
Very often, we'll get a pop-up, especially when we activate. My computer's on usually 24/7 for weeks at a time. But I get these various pop-ups where Fences goes out and checks to see if there's a newer model, and Paperport does the same thing. HP printers do the same thing. And I try to look for in Task Manager, I try to look for where they are, but usually they end before I can find them. Is there some way I can find them very quickly or figure out what they are so I can just shut them off? Because I don't care if Paperboard has an update, I'm not going to update it.
If you see what program it is, you're going to have to go into that program anyway and change something in settings. There'll be something in its setting. For instance, in Paperport, it's going to have a setting. Should I go out and check? And it may have a time you can change that, how often it does it, or if it does it at all. You're going to have to do it within each program. You're not going to do it in Task Manager. I'm not sure. There may be a way in, it may not be in Task Manager, but it may be back here in Event Viewer. You might be able to find where that pop-up occurred.
That's it.
Application Explorer will find it too. If you can
I don't know that. I'm just guessing, but Event Viewer, because it is an event of some sort, whether it actually logs it or not, I don't know. But that would be a place where I would check.
The Event Viewer, I'm definitely going to tell you where it came from.
I've not used this, but there is a problem step recorder, or PSR, in the Start menu. Again, PSR, steps recorder. I'm not going to run it because we're recording this and it might interfere, but it does. It actually will record different things that you're doing, and they show here. Let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Not going to make it any clearer, but recorded steps, and the file contains all the steps and information that was recorded to help you describe the recorded steps to others. So if you're trying to help somebody, you're trying to troubleshoot, you can use that recording, and it will record each of the steps that you do within a program during a short period of time. So it's something to take a look at and see if it's of use, especially if it's something that you think you might need. Then there's also in Windows 10, there's a remote assistance and quick assist. I know most of us use Team Viewer. When I say most of us, some of those of you that I've worked with over the last several years. But there is a remote assistance and quick assist within Windows 10 that you might want to try for people who are unknowledgeable and might want to use it. Identifying unknown hardware. You might want to take a look at what the problems that are annoying PCs, hardware devices, and it might be listed as unidentified. You could double click it and view the hardware ID section of the details panel to view its VEN or vendor and DEV or device codes. A search for these online can reveal what the device is so you can get to the correct driver. So, and then repairing a Windows startup. With the system rescue disk, you can open a command prompt window, and from there, there's several commands can rebuild the Windows startup system, and hopefully you'll get working again. And then there's some other things on here. I'm not going to go through all of those. You can take a look at that article yourself, but it's a good article and worth noting and putting in your. In fact, I even put an asterisk there because I thought it was an important article that you want to have in your library of tools that you can use. Now, Kim Commando had an article And again, let's go ahead and she's got so many ads and things that she adds on. Let's look at the reader view. And it just cuts out all the crap. It's really kind of neat. Whoops, I guess I did it twice. So let's do it one more time and make it larger. By the way, I was just doing Control Plus. That makes it larger, but you can go into the menu under View and make it bigger too. But she's talking about 3 items here. One of them is the event viewer, which we talked about. And again, she's got a little bit, there's some information there with some of the things you might do with it. But one thing we didn't talk about is system information. And you can get to that several ways, but or you can do the Windows R key and just type in MS Info 32. But if we go to Control Panel, and I'll just type in the box here and just type in SYS System. I just type in System Info. It's there. Click on it. There's your system summary. You'll see that I gave this. I'm using an Intel NUC is the computer, so I called it a NUC. And you can see what build and version of Windows I have. You can see that I've got an i3 4010U CPU, 2 cores. The BIOS version was 2014. And let's see what else might be of interest. The obvious Windows, hardware abstraction, and a username. Eastern Standard Time. I got 16 gigabytes of RAM in this. So there's some basic information here, what the build is, what operating system, but under hardware resources and any conflicts, it's going to look and see. And let it refresh. So it gives some information there. To me, that's nothing that that I have. Let's take a look at memory. And it looks like everything is okay there. Everything's marked as status okay. Under components, I can look to see what I have for input. I got a keyboard. I've got a pointing device. The pointing device is a Logitech unifying mouse. So on the club computer, you can go in and take a look with the mouse plugged in to see if it even sees it. If it doesn't, then you got some kind of an issue, probably a driver issue. And then under ports, network, you got the adapter, protocol, Winstock, storage, drives. I've got a local fixed disk built in of that's an SSD, and this is a combo that's got 30 gigabytes free. And I've got the D drive, which is a 1 terabyte drive. I've got a little over 300 gig free on it, and then my L drive that I just started setting up, that's the Lima, and it's 3.64 terabytes, and I've got 3.58 terabytes yet to fill. So I don't have a lot on it yet, but we're getting there. And then there's some USB. So that's your system information that you can get to, and another tool to have to take a look to see what you've got in your computer. Or if you're helping someone and you ask them, well, what do you got in this computer? If they don't know, you can go to that system information, and that gives you the information that you're looking for. And then there's also a memory diagnostic. Can't run that because what it does, if I type in and tell it to do it, it's going to schedule it the next time it'll either make me reboot now and do it before it boots, or it will, the next time I reboot, it will do the memory check and then do finish doing the reboot. So if I ran it and it rebooted, we'd lose connection and you'd never see it anyway. So those are 3 other items that Kim Commando mentioned that I thought I wanted to add to this. Okay, fix update errors with this new tool. If you have an update error in Windows 10, and sometimes they occur, how do you fix it? Well, there's a new tool from Microsoft. Let's go ahead again and go into the reader view, make it larger so you can see it better. If you're having problems installing updates in Windows 7 onwards, there's a troubleshooting page, and there's a link in this article where you can click on it. A guided walkthrough lets you fix problems in Windows 7, 8.1, or 10. Just choose your operating system and follow the on-screen instructions. If you're running 10, you'll be prompted to download a new Windows Update Troubleshooter. Run this with administrator permissions and then click Next to start the process. It's an improved version of Troubleshooter available. There is an improved one for previous versions of Windows and checks for problems with Windows Update. By default, the Troubleshooter will attempt to fix any problems it encounters, but if you click Advanced Link and uncheck Apply Repairs Automatically, you'll be able to choose which repairs you want to run. This is what it's going to look like. And then you open the troubleshooting report to see exactly what was checked by the tool. If it hasn't managed to fix things, this might give you a clue as to what to do next. So another item for your arsenal is the troubleshooter for Windows 10, especially for updates. How to back up your computer automatically with Windows 10. With Windows built-in tools, I'm not going to cover this. I put it in there. I've never used it. I use Acronis. I know some of you use Acronis. Some of you use Macrium Reflect. But if you aren't using anything, take a look at this article and at least try it so you can get some kind of a backup for your Windows 10, and this will do it automatically. There's also a file history backup that you can do. How to use Windows 10 file history backup feature. Again, this is something I've never used. In doing my research for this meeting, I came across this article and I said, well, I want to include this, so I have it in my library as well. File history feature lets you set up an external drive to back up your files automatically. You don't need any extra software, and it's very customizable. Windows 10 file history is an easy way to get started with backing up your personal files. So all you have to do is get an external drive and run this, and you can at least get some of your files backed up and have it do it automatically using the file history. And this is what it's going to look like. Again, another article to take a look at from the website. Once you're there, again, this article's got some screenshots of what to do and how to do it. So if you're not familiar with it, take a look at the article again on the WinSig website at huey.net. It's about 5 and 3. You guys want me to keep going, or because I'm going to get into something? I'm going to talk about the new update that's, I'll just mention the new update's coming in April. At this point, that's where we expect it to be. It was originally figured that it was going to be in March, but things seem to be pointing to April now. So the next major update, remember that we had one in July, and that was the last major one, and the next one will be in April. And they're going to try to do, I think, 2 a year, but in 2016 they only did the one. Question?
I've just been informed that Refresh, our speaker, is not here yet. They're doing a radio show, and they'll be here as soon as they're done. So you just go ahead and we can take a break as soon as you're done and hold the election. I'm thinking I can probably get it done in 3 minutes flat.
Okay.
See.
Okay, so let's go back. Take a look at this article. But here's what Microsoft announced was coming to this update, and then we'll take a look at some other things too. Again, let's get rid of the extraneous stuff by clicking the view. Isn't that neat that you can do that and get rid of all the ads and all the junk that's all over, so you can just see what it's mentioned. So it's only been a few months. This is an article, I'm not sure what the date was, but it was a month or so, or a couple of months ago. But it's only been a few months since Microsoft started rolling out the Windows 10 anniversary update. And now the next one is going to be the Creators Update, known as Redstone 2. And they say spring of 2017. Again, it looks like it's going to be April. And there's a link here where you can take a look at some of the things that are coming. If you're on the Insider Preview program, you can already play with some of the beta versions. There's going to be an improved Action Center. After some intelligent tweaking, the anniversary update, it's going to take another giant leap forwards in the usefulness of it. If you're not familiar, I'm going to come over and I'll open up my Action Center. It looks like this. There's items down here in the bottom, and then there's some things that I have, some mail and some other things that I have designated that I want to show up. And so that's the Action Center, and that's going to be improved. There's going to be some more personalization. So if you're helping somebody with their computer, it's going to be more confusing if they start personalizing it. I prefer to stay generic. But some people like to pretty it up and do all kinds of things, change defaults and so on. And so there's going to be a lot more ways to personalize colors and combinations and themes and so on. Let's see. There's also going to be a blue light option. It'll change the brightness and screen warmth based on the time of day. And so that's for that. Then there's going to be a Paint 3D. The Microsoft Paint interface has barely changed since it was first shipped with the Windows 95. However, the Creators Update will dump the tried and tested visuals in favor of a new 3D offering. The new Microsoft Paint app has leaked online, and so you can click on it and take a look at some pictures of it. It's being overhauled in a big, bold way. And the new Microsoft Paint for Windows 10, there's some articles about it. And so you're going to be able to do some 3D modeling with it. Mixed reality, I don't think many of us in our group are playing with anything to do with mixed reality and wearing of some of the headsets and so on, the virtual reality, augmented reality, and so on. You're going to be hearing a lot about it. It's going to be very popular, and it's going to be hard for those of us who are seniors, if you'll play on words, to wrap our head around, or to wrap it around our head. But you're going to start seeing a lot of it. It's going to kind of be like cars with no drivers. Those of us who have the white hair are going to find these things and these changes in the way the world goes difficult to understand and to accept. But there's going to be a lot of it and a lot more of it. And you're going to see the ability to do some of this and more in the new version of Windows 10. There's going to be some new Office features. According to reports, the PowerPoint will receive 3D models and cinematic 3D animations. Word and Excel will eventually receive similar features. All the Office apps will also support pen functionality for writing and formatting. I have all of my computers now are touch screens, but my Surface has a special pen, and the newer Surfaces even have a far advanced pen capabilities. And even the the latest Apples are doing a lot more with pen as well. Enhanced Edge functionality. Edge hasn't quite managed to grab the public's attention so far. It wasn't helped by some glaring omissions when it first launched, For instance, they didn't have any add-ons or extensions, which they do now. But there's more and more reasons that people are starting to use Edge. I know one of the big reasons I didn't is I use Evernote, and I need to have access to Evernote. And without its clip ability as an extension, I wasn't using Edge. Well, there is one now with this latest major update during the summer, the anniversary update. And so now I use Edge on occasion. I'm still using Firefox as my major browser. Edge and Firefox are the only two that have this ability to do what we're doing with the reader view. I'm not sure if there is an extension with Chrome, but I couldn't find a way to make it happen in Chrome. And I know in Internet Explorer, the old version that Microsoft used before Edge, does not have a reader ability either. And you can see from the way I'm using it here, it certainly has an advantage. And you cut out all of the advertising, you cut out all of the menus and all the junk that some pages have become so difficult to read and follow articles, where having this ability, it helps us focus in on the article.
Huey,
Yes.
are you aware of any plans for Edge to include Web of Trust? As far as I can tell, Web of Trust does not work in Edge.
As far as I know, you're correct. Web of Trust had some issues, and I'm not sure if they're working on those first, having nothing to do with Microsoft Edge. So I've not heard one way or the other.
Thank you.
I did see, I think they've got an Android version now, but I did not see anything about Edge. So I'm quite sure that they're going to, as long as they stay around. The Windows Store themes, there's going to be new ones. My People, place people at the center of Windows as part of the vision. So they're going to have something with My People, and I'm not sure what this is all about, but you're going to start seeing a lot of interfacing between Skype and Xbox Live and SMS messages and messaging. In other words, this whole social media thing is going to be more interwoven with Windows, whether some of you use it or not. I have my doubts, but you're going to know people who do. And then some global actions and the Windows Defender overhaul as well. Groove Music Maker is going to have some updates and changes. So if you're working with anything with music and videos, you're going to see some changes there. Improved upgrading, Wi-Fi control, mail app. So there's going to be lots of things. And then I found another article in this creators update. And what they called this article was all new features that Microsoft didn't mention. So they've discovered them either through the testing, beta testing, or through some articles that they've come across, or some errors or mentions that Microsoft has done in certain places. But Microsoft has a whole lot more. If you want to see what some of the additions are, go to Brad Sams over at Thurrott.com. But again, the Action Center I mentioned, there's going to be custom accent colors, themes. So most of these are things that were covered, what we talked about in that last one. There is going to be a Microsoft Edge tab browsing. The Windows Defender update was in that other article. And so that's pretty much that article. That first article had most of what they were talking about. All right, I'm going to switch gears here, as long as you're going to let me keep going. And that's the best apps for your new Windows 10 computer. If you got a new computer for the holidays, you got Windows 10 on it, or you just recently updated to Windows 10, these are some apps that you might want to have on your computer you might want to take a look at. A lot of them are items that you use. Some I've used, some I've not. I think I've got 2 articles like this. Let's go switch back for a moment. The next article in here is 12 essential Windows apps to make your life simpler. You'll notice that some of them are crossovers, that some of the items in this article are the same as that one, some are not. Wunderlist is one that's on both, and I've never used it. I'm not familiar with it, but it helps you get organized, and I know some of you need it drastically, but you just don't take the time to get organized. But it's a full-featured app that has reminders, due dates, and most importantly, it seamlessly syncs across iOS, Android, Mac, and when you need it, the web. Another program called Lightshot. Windows 10 has a good snipping tool built in, but Lightshot makes things even easier to share a screenshot with some annotations. And there's also a link to download it. I use Snagit, which I have purchased. I like Snagit. I've used it for years and years. It does several things, one of which is it does a panorama. If you've got a large article like we're looking at here, if I ran Snagit, I could tell it I want a panorama, and it'll say, okay, which direction you want to go to? I said just down. I then scroll down, tell it to stop, and it actually takes the whole article and makes a JPEG out of an entire long article, which you can then blow up and save and print out or do whatever you want to do with it. OneNote is another application. I use Evernote, which I pay for. OneNote is free from Microsoft, but I've got almost 10,000 notes in Evernote, so I really don't want to switch. However, there is a program written to take Evernotes and convert them to OneNote. I tried playing with that, and it's really screwed up my notes. It works differently. OneNote does, and so I've decided not to go to OneNote, and I'm staying with Evernote. Chrome is, according to this article, is still the best Windows browser, and this article suggests that you use Chrome. Again, I use Firefox. There are some times that Firefox doesn't do a website right. I have some problems with a website. I'll open up Chrome, I'll open up Edge, and I'll use different browsers to do things. And I have pop-up ads shut off on Firefox, and occasionally I go to a website and it won't let me read an article without turning off the pop-up blocker. And instead of doing that, I'll open up, I'll have either Chrome set with not having a pop-up blocker, or Edge, or I'll go in and I'll shut it off. And so I can read that article, capture it for Evernote, and then I'll either turn it back on or I'll do it the next time. But I don't have to then worry about it. Franz is another program I've seen mentioned several times in some of these articles. It's a messaging service that allows you to work with several services like Messenger, WhatsApp, Slack, Skype, Telegram, and WeChat, and they're all supported. You run the one program, and you can go back and forth and message. So if you've got people who message you with different programs, and instead of having to go to each program separately, you can use this utility. Tweetin is another way to read tweets. Next Gen Reader is an RSS feed reader. I use Feedly, and I've been using it for a long time, and I use it all the time. Plex, if you like to organize your photos and video collection, then download Plex. It's free from the Windows Store. It creates a media center with all your content, and if you've also got an Xbox One, then you can download the app to your console and start streaming content from your PC. Speaking of photos, if any of you are using Flickr, for your photo storage, Flickr is owned by Yahoo. And if you've read anything about Yahoo, they've had a couple of major breaches. They've been up for sale. And Microsoft almost bought them a couple of years ago for a humongous amount of money, and it didn't go through. Now they can't give themselves away. However, they were almost sold to Verizon, but when the notice of breach of 500 million records and then another one of 1 billion records, either Verizon may not buy them at all, or what they buy them for may go down tremendously. But if Verizon does buy them, or if they don't, what's going to happen to Flickr? I've got 6,000 pictures on Flickr that have been there for 10 years. Some have been there as long as 10 years. I've had an account for 10 years. Well, Flickr has a way in which you can download pictures. And so I've been doing it by the year, and I've now downloaded all 6,000 photos. So if they go away, I still have all of those pictures. I've got them it actually zips them up, and then you download a zip file, and then you can unzip the file. So I did it by years, and but you can do it by albums and a couple other ways. But at least I've got all 6,000 of those pictures now backed up. So if Yahoo goes away, at least I have my pictures. So if you're using the cloud, make sure either you use a couple of clouds or you use an external hard drive as well. Don't rely strictly on a cloud backup, because if they go away, you're up that well-known tributary without a paddle. And sometimes they announce it, sometimes they don't, and all of a sudden they're gone. And so is your information. And then again, you don't know what they've done with where it was stored. So you really need to keep an eye on where you keep some of these things. I got photos squirreled away all over the place, and I'm trying to figure out what programs I use to test to put some various pictures, and so I can get them and download them, at least get them off of those websites. So make sure that when you back up, that you occasionally check to see what you've backed up. There's a couple of things you need to be careful of. Number one, the CDs and DVDs have a finite life. They can go bad. Somebody handed me a disc, the CD, that had some pictures on it that I needed for an article, and when I went to read it, I couldn't read it. And when I looked, I noticed that some of the layer of the silver on the CD was peeling off. So that CD is no longer accessible. I could get a few things off, but I couldn't get a lot of the files that I needed off of it. So you want to have backups of those. You might want to, if you've got a lot of old CDs with pictures on them, you might want to then copy them back onto a large hard drive or to a cloud somewhere. So if they do go bad, you can still work with them. I also, as you know, that I moved over here to the West Coast 2 years ago. And in the process of moving, I had to clean out storage stuff I had stored for 18 years in one room, including a lot of backups. Well, those backups were all on, well, I shouldn't say all on, but a lot of them were on Colorado tapes. Well, I have not seen a Colorado tape backup drive in years. And if I did, I think they connected to a serial port or a parallel port or a SCSI port, which you don't see those either. So having those tapes, what I ended up having to do is destroy the tapes, but I couldn't get any of the backup stuff off of them. So you might want to check to see if you've got some backups from many, many years ago, see what media they're on and start moving it. If they're on 5 1/4 discs, I've got a bunch of 5 1/4 discs. I don't have a way to read them. I've got a 3.5-inch external floppy drive, but I can't find an external 5 1/4 drive anywhere.
I still have one.
Check the state.
If you see one somewhere, let me know, because I would like to have it. I still have quite a few data files on 5 1/4 discs that I'd like to get data off. Not not a major catastrophe, but A lot of them I already got rid of by cutting them. But I would like to do that. But the point I'm making is you really need to think about where your backups are, especially old ones that you haven't, have got pictures that go back many years that you might like to keep that may either become inaccessible because the media has gone out of date, or just the media is disintegrating. So something to think about. Another couple articles or another couple of accessories or apps to use is VLC, the VLC media player, which I have on all of my PCs, which is very good. That's from Videoland and it's free. Stream is Value's downloadable storefront where popular games like Fallout 4 and so on, where you can download them. Read It is for Reddit fans, and Sketchable if you were to do some sketching. Notepad++, I've got it down here. In fact, I keep it in my taskbar. Let's open it up. It's a really nice text editor that I use sometimes instead of using the built-in one in Windows, which is Notepad. But either one of them I keep right in my taskbar so I can open them up to capture or jot notes down or paste things into and so on very quickly and easily. WOX or WOX is a full-featured launcher that lets you find apps and files quickly by searching the web. And I'm going to show you one last article. It's about 3:18, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up at this point. I want to show you one other program. Yeah, and then there's another one with 12 essential articles. Let's go ahead and just quickly go through that. And again, go to this. Come on. My mouse needs to be cleaned. And plus. And again, Flux, iCare, making your workday easier. OneNote, Skype for conference calls. Wonderlust, which was on that other list. Drawboard PDF is a PDF viewer. Stardock Fences, that's what's here on my desktop. I have so many things on my desktop that, for instance, I use fences, and I've got little roll-up fences that I have, plus some that aren't roll-up fences, but I keep everything in little groups. So as you can see by me using that I have little fences, which I think is a great way to keep track of those things. Wrong article, we'll come back here. Fences from Stardock, and I think I demonstrated that in the Windows SIG, probably 3-4 years ago now, because I've been over here 2 years. So it's not expensive, but it's a program. I think it was about $10. Yeah, $10. And from Stardock, and a great program. Sticky Notes. Robin uses Sticky Notes. I don't use Sticky Notes, period, but it's been built. It's part of Windows for years. And where you find it is go to your menu and go to where the W's are and go to Windows Accessories. I know it's probably difficult to see this, but go to Windows Accessories and what am I looking for?
Sticky notes.
Sticky Notes. And maybe it's not there. Thought it was. Well, just do a search for STICKY. Sticky Notes. It's in. Just click on it. And it opens up a sticky note. And you can type in it and then add more, change colors, have different colors, and so on. That's all you got to do. And then you can close them out or close the program out. Throw that one away. Come on. Delete it. And delete that one. If I don't do it now, I'll forget to do it. Anyway, so that's a program. If you like sticky notes, Robin has them, so whenever she starts up her computer, they're on her desktop, and then she can minimize them, or when she opens something, just put it on top of them, but they're always on her desktop. And it's so you don't have to have a piece of paper that's going to fall off and you lose it. You've got it built into your computer. And then Flipboard for news, and this article, Stumble Upon for random entertainment, and the Weather Channel for weather, and then iHeartRadio, which I use extensively with my Echo from Amazon. I like to listen to the morning news from WDBO in Orlando. And I can't get it here, but I get it through iHeartRadio, so I listen to it in the morning to hear news. If I'm up between 5 and 9, I listen to the Orlando, and I hear the Orlando news. I love iHeartRadio, and I listen to some other stations as well. Now, there's one other thing that I wanted to show you, and I'll close out with this. I'm going to close this. And I found this at the Sarasota Technology User Group, which I also now am a member of. It's called Search My Files. So if I click on Search My Files, I get a box that's going to search, and then here it gives me all kinds of things. But if I just use a wildcard and say, okay, I want anything that's got CFCS in it. CFCS. I use a wildcard in front of it with a star, CFCS, and then a wildcard after it. Tell it to start the search. You can see down here how fast it's searching my hard drive. It's quicker than the internal Windows search, and it finds more things for me. And it shows me a list of it, where it is, how big it is, when it was last modified. If I move over here, created time, last accessed, attributes, extensions. So it gives you all kinds of information about all of them as well. And then the size on the disk. And this is a free program. It's called Search My Files. And you'll see it's from Nirsoft Freeware, nirsoft.net, nirsoft.net. I'll add that to my meeting notes. But it's searching, it's searching the Lima now too. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer. But anything I've got with CFCS in it, it's finding whether it's in the middle or it's, as you can see, I've got all kinds of things here, and it's done. It's now searched probably 1.5 terabytes, and it's done. So a great program to add to your resources. I use it. To me, it finds things a lot better than the built-in search. Not quite as fast when it works properly than the one built into Windows, but I really like it, and I do use it. And with that note, any questions from the floor before I go ahead and finish?
Hi, I have several comments. I'm going to go backwards. Latest first. That search program looks great, almost as good as Total Commander. And of course, that does so much more.
We won't tell you who asked that question.
Yes.
Secondly, you mentioned WDBO. Andre at Refresh, they have started that show again on WDBO. It's on every Sunday at 2, I believe. I don't know who else is on it. But if you were curious to go back and listen to them again, I'm sure you would get that on iHeartRadio.
Well, I'm usually at the meetings on this Sunday anyway, but other Sundays I might be able to listen.
You started off quite a while ago with all sorts of great tips and tricks and tools. You even used the word arsenal in searching for problems, but before that you said how much smoother and easier Windows has gotten to be and less problematic. But it's good to have as many tools, because I still run into some issues that I'm glad to be able to scout around and see what might be causing difficulties.
Good. Good comments. Thank you. Let me.
Really enjoyed it.
Okay. Thanks, Huey.
Wait a minute. Let me bring this up before I say goodbye. Hang on.
Got it. Huey.net, WinSig.
Yeah, and also, yes, the website is huey.net, HEWIE.net. Then go to the WinSig, and I've already started now the list for 2017. And there's links to programs and videos to programs that we've done over the years since 2008 on the website. So there's lots and lots of help for Windows 7 for those of you who are still on Windows 7. Even XP, there's probably lots of help there as well. And with that, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.